Eileen is an 8-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred mare that I recently got into half training from my friend from the track. I knew her in her 7-year-old year where she ponied at the racetrack after finishing her racing career at the end of her 6-year-old year. She retired from racing sound and was a pretty successful racehorse, and then as a 7-year-old, her owners decided to try ponying with her. For those of you who don't know what that is, ponies are the horses that lead the racehorses to the starting gates before races and sometimes in training. Eileen did a really good job as a pony, especially straight out of her racing career, and handled it really well, and I thought that spoke volumes about what kind of brain she had, and I was really excited to get her into training. Because she had been trail ridden and used as a pony for a year before, she came into work in the arena a lot more supple than a lot of horses do off the racetrack, but even still, being in an arena after being mostly ridden on large tracks or in straight lines on trails is a lot harder for horses because of the amount of bending that they have to do. But even still, I would say that she was more supple and more able to move laterally than a lot of off-the-track thoroughbreds are after finishing their racing career. However, she was quite nervous of this arena and didn't love the look of the jumps on the side of the arena, and was a lot more okay with going over the poles, but figured she had to jump them. So this ride, she was carrying a lot more tension than I would like her to, and was chewing at the bit more. You can see that when she does relax her neck at all, it's very bunchy, and she's not stretching forward with her nose, and her steps are shorter. She's not tracking up as well. She's not moving out from the shoulder as well. All of this is because she's carrying tension, which is not at all abnormal for horses coming off of the racetrack. With tense horses, I ride with my hands basically wide open and a super relaxed rein that they can easily pull out of my hands at any point, and I do this so that they don't feel trapped. You can see that when she does relax into the bridle at all, she's kind of snappy and opens her mouth, so she's hiding from the bit at this point. This isn't at all abnormal for racehorses because of the fact that when they're ridden in contact at the racetrack, they're ridden with a bridge over their neck, and this is when you cross the reins and push them down on their neck so that if they pull, they're basically hitting a wall of rein against their neck and pulling against themselves. So this meant if she ever tried to relax forward into the bridle or dive into the bridle at all at the racetrack, whether the rider intended to or not, she would hit the cross depending on where it's set. So because of this, she's hiding from stretching down and forward and reaching into the bridle, which again is totally normal. So during this first ride, I'm mostly working on just getting her to relax, encouraging her to stretch forward with a soft elastic rein, and using things like bending around corners or asking her to step sideways a little bit in a small little leg yield in the beginning stages of being learned, stuff like that, just to get her to relax into the bridle and try to extend the length of her neck and help her relax her back and take bigger steps. Eileen carries tension in the arena likely because she hasn't done a lot of arena work and is not quite as supple and elastic as horses who are schooled frequently in arenas typically are. And she's also newer to this property, has not been introduced to seeing jump standards or anything, and also just isn't used to schooling in an arena. So she was a little bit spooky of the stuff along the sides of the arena and just nervous in general looking around at the other horses and being down working at the barn instead of up in her field. So this ride was very much about trying to achieve relaxation and just get her more confident going around the sides of the arena and past the fences. And when I say spooky, I don't mean that she was being outwardly spooky and having big reactions. She was just carrying more tension because she was a little bit anxious about her surroundings. So the purpose of my ride in this first ride is just trying to get her more confident and relaxed and release some of the tension that she's feeling. When we first started cantering and I was sitting down in the tack, I noticed that she was more tense through the back, putting her head up and hollowing through the back. So I decided to get out of the tack in a half seat because this is something that a lot of thoroughbreds are comfortable with because they're used to having the rider off the back when they are training on the racetrack. This quickly resulted in her relaxing her neck and stretching forward and achieved what I was looking for it to do. Eileen has a naturally very balanced and correct canter, which is also her strongest gait. Again, not surprising because at the racetrack, their main gait is cantering. So they're usually more comfortable and relaxed at the canter than they might be at the trot, and they're usually more supple. So her canter was lovely and her strongest gait, even around the corners. She wasn't having a ton of trouble stretching and being loose in the canter around the corners, but she does at the trot, and she definitely carries more tension around the corners at the trot. In both gaits, she puts her head up around the corners due to a lack of balance and a lack of suppleness, but she seems to have more ease going through the corners in a relaxed frame at the canter, again, because it's her stronger gait. I started out my left lead canter in half seat because of what I had found from her other canter to the right, that she was more comfortable with me in half seat, and she became looser at the canter to the left more quickly as a result. You'll notice that even at the canter, my reins are really loose and my fingers are open, and my reins are kind of just flapping around really, really loose. And the reason why I don't take up contact, especially on tense horses that are off the racetrack at the canter, is because they're taught to run into contact at the racetrack. So the biggest mistake a lot of riders make is by grabbing onto their mouth, causing them to get more tense, and as a result, they speed up. The rider panics and hangs off their mouth more, resulting in them not having the horse go at all how they want it to. Now in our second ride, you'll notice that Eileen starts off way more relaxed, moving out more from the shoulder and stretching forward and down a lot more. And this is a really good start because she's already calmer in the arena. She's less nervous of the surroundings, and she's not as tense on this property because she's had more time to settle in and done some groundwork. However, when she does stretch forward, you'll notice in a lot of these clips that she goes behind the vertical when she's stretching forward. My reins are loose and they're running through my hands anytime she pulls forward, kind of like the spool of a sewing thread. Rolling with her when she stretches forward. However, she's coming in behind the vertical because she's not used to stretching down and forward. And like I said about the cross in the previous clips, when they're at the racetrack, they're not used to being able to stretch forward without any resistance. So you have to teach them that the resistance isn't there. And she'll have to get a couple more trials of the correct thing occurring before she realizes that. But you'll see that at the trot and the canter, she's looser through the back. She's got a nice rhythm and she's stretching forward with her nose poking out far more than she did in the other clips. And she's also keeping her head lower. She's not as high-headed and nervous. She's not hollowing out quite as much. And as a result, her stride opens up and gets bigger and more flowing. The open fingers are incredibly important for teaching her that she can stretch forward without any resistance, which is why I have such soft, loose hands when horses are learning these things. I don't really worry about them getting too fast or trying to get away from me because that's something I can correct once they start doing it. So I give her the benefit of the doubt, let her choose her rhythm, don't give her a contact to fight against, and kind of move my hands with her while gently coaxing her by asking for an inside bend around the corners or asking her to step over to the rail in a slight leg yield, taking a couple steps laterally. If she does pull against me or throw her head or anything, I just kind of let her do it. If her rhythm starts getting too fast, I can always use my seat to help slow her down or put her on a circle to help slow down the rate of the canter. However, she's got a very good rhythm at the canter and she doesn't typically speed off. And because I'm not holding against her and kind of fighting with her mouth, she has no reason to get heavy in the bridle and stronger, as is typical of horses who have raced. So that's why I keep such a soft and loose contact, because I want her to learn how to stretch forward. I want her to learn how to relax her neck and stretch forward while poking her nose out without hiding behind the bit. In these clips, she's still chewing a little bit and she still definitely does have tension, but it's a big improvement between the two rides, and it's something that I'm really happy about because she was able to relax quite substantially and start to settle a lot. And I think it speaks a lot about how she will continue to progress as she gains more strength and confidence in the arena.